Well, welcome back. And in this video, let's go over a little bit about navigating QuickBooks. So in the previous video, we covered how to set up your QuickBooks account. And once you've done that, gone through the setup there and answered the questions, QuickBooks will automatically log you into your QuickBooks program, and you'll be at your QuickBooks dashboard. So you'll see here, I'll show the QuickBooks dashboard. You'll see that it will be showing as we can see here. And so let me go over a few parts of the dashboard here. And then in the next video, we'll go into QuickBooks in more detail. So we'll keep each of the videos short as we go. So the dashboard is where you begin in QuickBooks, and from the dashboard, you can go in and enter transactions, print reports, do anything that you need to do in QuickBooks. There are some general areas here on the screen that I should mention. So over here to the left, this dark area you can see is a vertical menu. And this is where you can go into each of the parts of QuickBooks and do your work. So a real common example is to go into the sales section of QuickBooks. And you might need to enter maybe a customer invoice. So you could do that right here. We're going to go into this in the coming videos in a lot of detail. So I'm just going to be kind of brief and do a little overview of just kind of how to get around in QuickBooks a little bit here for all of us that are doing this for the first time. If you need to add a new customer, here's the customers option. So you can add new customers. And then also you can add your products and services that your business is selling. So again, we're going to cover all these in the videos to come. Another area that's very common is expenses, right? So of course we need to enter in bills and make payments. And we do all of those transactions here in the expenses area, right? So in fact, we can even click here on expenses, and what it'll do is it'll switch to the expenses section. And since I'm doing this for the first time, it's showing an informational window. But later, as we go in and start entering expenses and then the names of our vendors and our suppliers, then this screen will disappear, and this will become a list of transactions and names, right? Same with sales too. If I click on sales above, you'll see that actually, I should mention this, the items shown here on the side, the little cascading menu here, are actually duplicated up here, right? So these are all the same items. So you can get to them directly. If I want to go to customers, here, just watch, see right now I'm on all sales, but if I want to jump over here, I can click right there if I need to. But if I were doing this right from the dashboard, let's say, I'll go back to the dashboard. And if I go to sales, then I can just click customers and I'm right on the customers tab, right? But of course, once you're here, you can click any of these tabs and make an entry. I won't go through all of these because I don't want the video to run on for too long, but just the general idea is, as you can see, is that you can get into all areas of QuickBooks through this side menu. And we do call this side menu, we have a name, we call it the navigation bar or the navigation window, right? So this kind of helps you to get around in QuickBooks. You can see there's the payroll area there. Reports is a super important area. Maybe I can just click here for a moment, and you'll see that QuickBooks has many standardized reports, and these will probably cover a lot of your reporting needs, right, and your report work. You can, however, also create custom reports. So we're going to definitely go into reports and use them every week throughout the course here, because reports are, so vitally important in QuickBooks. They have reports for all the different transactions, right? You have their sales reports, you have expense reports and accounts payable reports down here. There's also payroll reports down below there. So reports are extensive, and they are really fantastic in QuickBooks. QuickBooks does an amazing job with reports. So we'll come back to reports in the near future. A little further down, of course, you can see there, you can enter in your tax information. You can set up sales tax, and we will cover doing that a little later on in the course. You can enter mileage, right? So if you have employee mileage or any mileage, right, that you need to enter, you can do that here in QuickBooks. This tab is important too, the accounting tab here. And this allows you to get into your chart of accounts. Maybe I can just click here for 1 second, and then we'll come back to the chart of accounts in more detail. Now, when you're clicking that for the first time, mine skipped it, but it's going to show a screen that says, it's going to have a green button here, and it's going to ask if you want to view the accounts. So I've done this. This is not my first time clicking here, so it skipped that screen. But you just want to click that little green button. It'll be right about here on the screen. And that's all you have to do. And then it shows your accounts here, right? I created a couple of accounts, which we're going to do in the next video here. So you won't see this checking and savings, but you will see cash on hand. And from there, all the way down the list, these are the pre-made accounts that QuickBooks offers, right, for us to use. And we definitely are going to be using a lot of these accounts. We're going to be creating some of our own too. But you need these because every transaction that you enter into QuickBooks will be entered into a minimum of 2 different accounts. So if you're familiar with double entry bookkeeping, then you'll know that every time you make an entry into an accounting system, that entry gets recorded into 2 different accounts. And those accounts come from this list here. If you're not familiar with double entry bookkeeping, don't worry. You don't have to know it to take the class. It's okay. But just know that your chart of accounts here is really the heart of your bookkeeping system, right? Everything you do ultimately gets recorded in these accounts, and they each have a balance, as you can see, which is going to accumulate right as we move on and make our entries. So that's here in accounting in chart of accounts. Let me mention 2 more items here, and then we'll end our video. You also have, you can enter your transactions using this side menu here, and it works very well. But you also have a button above here, which is the +sign new button. This actually is the button you'll probably use to enter most of your transactions. As I'm saying, you can go into sales here, and you can create an invoice, and that's a great way to go. But you can also do it up here, and it's actually just kind of a little quicker as far as your mouse clicks to come up here, because there's actually some transactions that are shown in this column and this column that you can get to a little faster, namely sales receipts, right? So if you need to issue a sales receipt to a customer, it's a little quicker to do it here through the +sign new, because you can see sales receipt right there, as well as all the other transactions, right? So again, there's invoice. If a customer does make a payment, right, you can receive their payment using this button. And you can see the others here if you need to issue a refund, right, or credit. Likewise, with your vendors, if you need to pay a bill, right, you can enter the bill and pay it using these options here. And we're going to go through many of these. Also, here's payroll, and you can enter timesheets, which we'll cover a little later on in the course. Over here, there's some other transaction possibilities, or really not so much transactions, but just bookkeeping that we have to do. So misspoke. Journal entries are transactions, and so are bank deposits, but we're not really transacting so much with customers when we make a bank deposit. But in any case, these are some of the other choices, right? They don't really fit in these categories, so they have another category. We will use the bank deposit. That's important. We'll use transfer because you can transfer money between a savings and a checking or other accounts, right, if you need to. We'll use the journal entries a little bit, and I'll show you how to make a journal entry if you don't know. But most of our focus will be here in customers and vendors. So as we run the business here, this is where you tend to do most of your work. So that's the +sign new, a very handy button, one that you'll use a lot in QuickBooks. Finally, and then we'll stop. Up to the upper right, you have this little gear button, and these are your settings. in QuickBooks. So all the different settings and options that you might want to turn on or off are here. And what I'll do is I'm going to reserve going into this for another video coming up very soon. Again, I don't want this video to go on for too long, but you will see here account and settings, right? So these are the settings generally in QuickBooks where you might want to turn a button or an option on or maybe turn it off. There's a duplicate here of chart of accounts also. So remember over here in accounting, you can come over here and you can view your chart of accounts, which we're seeing now. You can also do it up here through chart of accounts through the settings. So that's just a duplicate of what we used a moment ago. You can, maybe one other item, if you need to do a bank reconciliation, you probably saw here when we clicked accounting, do that again, there's a reconcile choice there, but there's also one up here too. So again, that's a duplicate. And there's some other things too, but we'll come back and go over them in detail. But just know that if you do need to adjust a setting in QuickBooks, if it's an overall setting in the whole program, it'll be from this gear icon. You'll also see a gear icon down here and a lot of the lists in QuickBooks. So this is a list, right, of our accounts in this case, and they'll have their own smaller settings. So it applies maybe just to this list right here. But I think I'll hold this, I'll hold the video just to what we've viewed here. And actually, I should mention one more thing. If we go back to the dashboard, and I'll close on this point here. If we go back to our dashboard, then we can, sorry, get that to click. Okay, good. So if we click on dashboard, just our final step here, then it brings us back to this dashboard. And I should mention here, what you're seeing here are the process steps, right, that we go through just in our day-to-day bookkeeping, right? So one of the first things you would do as a business when you're setting yourself up in QuickBooks is you want to add your products and services, right? We'll cover that in the next video. You want to probably add customers. So you can see those are shown as the first two steps here. And then you probably want to start either creating maybe estimates or just, you're going to start invoicing customers, right? Then eventually they'll pay. So then you'll want to receive payments. So you can see, right, this is kind of like the little cycle that you go through when you do your bookkeeping. Money out, right? You can pay bills, clicking here, but you can also just come over here to expenses and you can click expenses and you can start entering expenses here if you click add manually, right? And you can make payments. You can also do it through your bank too. But let me just finally mention this back in the dashboard. We have two tabs in the dashboard. So if we click on getting things done, these are the process steps, right? And these are just shortcuts. Again, they're just shortcuts to either one of the areas over here, or you can even just come up here and, if you need to pay bills, so you can see there's pay bills there, but it's also right here, right? And then you can issue an invoice up here too. So these are just shortcuts to the transactions that you want to set up in QuickBooks. But finally, the second tab here I want to mention, and then we'll stop, is a summary of how your business is doing on any given day. So these little tiles will show, right, your profit and loss. So as you do enter payments, receipts and whatnot, then hopefully the income will always exceed expenses, right? That's definitely the goal. And then likewise, expenses will show here too. Your sales will show down here, right? So you'll see the sum total of your sales to date, as well as a graph of how you're doing over the last month here. You can change this too. See, it shows last 30 days, but you can click up here and you can make it last month, this quarter, this fiscal year, right? That's kind of like a year to date or last 12 months. So you can change any of those time horizons. And then you'll see likewise, here's a report of our expenses. Here's a report specifically for invoices, right? And we'll come back to these when we get to invoices. These color codes they're using are common throughout QuickBooks. So for an invoice that's not due yet, right? The customer's been invoiced, but the invoice has not come due. That would accumulate over in the gray. Overdue invoices, you can see, will show in the orange. Invoices that have been paid, maybe if they paid by check and it hasn't been deposited in the bank yet, although it's been entered into QuickBooks, then that shows under not deposited, right? So we're going to get into this in a lot of detail, so I'll just leave it at that. Then also you see your bank accounts. Now I've set up three of the bank accounts, which we have not done yet. So forgive me if those showing there, but it's actually kind of nice because you can see how they're going to look. In the next video, we're going to set these accounts up. Last thing is, if you want to show these on your computer, they're a great way just to have an overview, right? To get an overview of how things are going. However, if your computer is in an area of the office where others are walking by and looking at your computer screen, you might want to keep these confidential, right? Because this is very, sensitive information. So what you can do is you can click this privacy button, and that will just go ahead and turn off the reports, right? So that when you do start up QuickBooks, and it comes up on your screen here, if somebody is, if people are walking back and forth behind your desk, maybe you're in a high traffic area of the office, right? That's not going to be visible to everyone. So you can certainly do that too. And when you turn this button off, then every time you start up QuickBooks, it'll start up this way, right? With those hidden, but we can turn them back on for now. Of course, there's help up above, right? So we can get help in QuickBooks. The My Experts is a service you can pay for where you can get consultation, right, from experienced bookkeepers if you're interested in that. You can see the name of our restaurant here, the Sushikoma restaurant. And that was from when we did our setup. Actually, I believe we skipped that in the setup. So in the next video, we'll go over adding the name here if it's not showing already. So that's an overview of the desktop. And in the next video, we'll continue our tour of QuickBooks.